Hi there, everybody. My name's Philip Haydn, and I want to thank you for tuning in to this week's Art of Procurement podcast. It's episode 251. And in fact, last week we passed 2 milestones for the podcast. So we sailed through the 300,000 download mark since we began. And April was also our most listened to month yet. So I just want to thank you again for all the support. It's some pretty incredible numbers, and I'm so thankful for you for tuning in and for spreading the word of what we're trying to do here at Art of Procurement. So this week's podcast, I recorded it live at the recent ProcureCon Indirect East event, and it's with 2 procurement leaders who are friends and friends of the pod. Both of them work for VSP Global. So I'm joined by Nathan Haydn-Myer, who is Manager of Procurement Operations and Insights, and Siddharth Ramesh, who is Manager of Corporate Procurement, again, both for VSP Global. So in this podcast, Nathan and Sid both share details about the dynamic program that VSP built to centralize procurement and maximize savings through an initiative called Spend It Like It's Yours, which had the acronym SILIY, with the help of a mascot, Moolah, who they grew as essentially one of the faces of the campaign. It's a great story, and VSP received industry-wide attention and acclaim for their approach to centralizing procurement. That being said, it wasn't an easy journey. They were tasked with centralizing procurement and savings without a mandate. And the journey also took longer than what many outsiders might expect. It required a number of years to fully execute. And it also led, as we go into in the pod, some natural, but I think healthy turnover as well. So as we go into the pod, I start by asking Nathan if he could actually share some background on Moolah and VSP's procurement transformation initiative.
So Moolah was born out of, I'll say a corporate initiative, corporate in air quotes. Greg Tennyson, our boss, when he came to VSP Global, was tasked with kind of centralizing procurement, driving savings. Oh, and by the way, there's no mandate. Figure it out. Type deal, right? So Greg took on a pretty, I think, innovative approach, and he worked with the management on his team at the time and our internal marketing folks and said, look, we need to do this. Let's make it kind of fun. So the tagline SILIY, spend it like it's yours, was developed. And to support that, they created this 6'6" purple hairy monster called Moolah. Moolah is our kind of team mascot. And Moolah was this representation of really poor spending habits. So they did a series of video vignettes featuring Moolah. The first one, he's photocopying his hand. He makes like 100 photocopies. Right. In one, he pours a Monster soft drink on his keyboard because he wants a new keyboard. And then towards the end, and some of these you can see on Vimeo.
I've seen a couple of them. I didn't realize you had more than the ones that are out there publicly.
I think 2 or 3 are public. There's a series of 7.
Right.
Yeah. And in the last one, it's kind of funny. So he has this progression, and he becomes more of kind of a good steward of the company's money and good habits. So in the last one, there's this shady supplier. They're negotiating, and the VSP employee is kind of having a hard time with this guy. And so Moolah comes in from behind. Scares the crap out of this guy, and now the negotiations with Moolah, and Moolah's setting him straight. So it's a cool progression, and I think one of the biggest things that did for our procurement organization, one, it made it light and fun. Right.
It kind of makes you approachable. I mean, it takes away from the fear that so many people have in working with procurement as, the old stuffy accounting, bean counter approach to actually. They're kind of willing to laugh at themselves, but also make this about relationships.
Yeah, exactly. I think, too, so I think, one, it made us more approachable.
Yeah.
2, I think in some people it made them realize that maybe that what they were doing probably wasn't the best thing. And when you have this unmistakable 6'6" tall monster as the shepherd of these bad habits, you kind of go, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that either. So that was good. And then from there, it really opened the door for procurement to just start helping people more, right? We had all these kind of taglines, what's your Moolah doing for you? And then we could go in and use that tagline and say, hey, what is your Moolah doing for you? Here's how we can help you use it better.
And you had the pleasure of playing Moolah, right?
I have been in Moolah numerous times. we were chatting right before the podcast. It's hot and sweaty inside Moolah. And Moolah's a little old and shedding, and so you come out almost as purple as Moolah.
You got to watch the videos to kind of get the context. But, I always share your approach with other organizations looking to go on a change journey. Some take the advice, most think, I don't know, this seems a little bit different. Like, was there any fear in doing that from your side in kind of putting this persona out in the world and thinking a little bit different, or was it like, it just seems like the right thing to do for our culture?
I'm going to pass this to Sid. Moolah was in existence when I started at VSP Global. So how was Moolah?
So I would actually say, there was no fear, because we were starting from ground zero, right? We had to do something to get procurement established, get the credibility for procurement, start, have, people having trust procurement and learn about procurement in most cases, because, as Nathan mentioned, procurement was very transactional prior to all of these efforts, right? Greg started, Spend It Like It's Yours with the intent to centralize and then reach out to all areas of, the business. And Moolah was the perfect, way to do that. Our company, one of our core values is to actually have fun. And so that, I think, resonated very well when it came out with these, marketing messages, the video campaigns, the road shows. As Nathan mentioned, it resonated very well with everybody in the company, and people started taking procurement more seriously. There's that fun part with Moolah, but behind Moolah is the it's all of the reasons why we should actually engage procurement and do things the right way.
It's not just about a character and a cartoon and trying to create some fun. There's obviously a serious message behind it.
I think procurement partnering with marketing to do something like this is like probably unheard of, and so that's where I think we were really innovative in terms of doing that and then executing on that successfully. And it's paid dividends. Spend It Like It's Yours was a very successful program in terms of centralizing procurement, in terms of raising the procurement maturity level. And what has happened is it's now morphed into a company-wide program called Fiscal Fitness. And it has sponsorship all the way from the C-suite across the company. The intent of Fiscal Fitness is obviously, to build upon the success of, SILIY, Moolah, and make it really inclusive, so that everybody in the company thinks that they are spending company money in the right way. Everything from a perfect trip, if you're booking, airfare, hotel, to a large capex purchase, heavy equipment. Everything goes through the same scrutiny and same due diligence that you would do by engaging the procurement team.
It's just about being responsible in the way you spend money, and we always talk about it, but we never, I've not seen it campaigned. A campaign that's kind of built around that whole message before. What you just mentioned it there. One of the things that stood out to me that I think we miss is the scope of resources within our organization to help us do interesting things. So when you're thinking about change journeys and transformations and things like that, we have people in our business. You worked with marketing people. There's product people. People used to designing things to engage others, and yet it's such a rarity that we use those. I don't know whether it's a relational thing, whether we're not even thinking about it, or whether we think this is, they're focused on revenue, they're not going to be focused on helping an internal department. But pulling that together to create something is far more powerful than we as procurement could ever do on our own, because it's just not our skill set.
So we've taken the success of Moolah and the lessons learned, so building bridges between these departments, and we've reached out, because as procurement professionals, our goal is to add value, right? And to expect the company to understand what we can do or what we want to do is naive. So we go out very often, and we'll do roadshows, but more often than not, it's, hey, what problems are you facing? Right? Tell us about the issues that you're having, and maybe we can help, and maybe we can't. So we oftentimes, by taking that approach, we've found, especially in probably the past year or two, that we get involved in projects that we never would have before. Greg and Dennis, one of our colleagues, have gone to our sales organization and taught them how to respond to RFPs, right? We're getting pulled into these projects around supply chain and centralization and supplier management and these kind of bigger HR initiatives that if we just weren't demonstrating the willingness to understand the company's problems, we would never
want to work with you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's thinking about yourself, and I've said this in a few pods recently, thinking about you as a business, within a business, not thinking about procurement as a function. Right. So then it's always about what's the challenge that we're trying to solve, not this is what we do.
Right.
And it changes the mindset of how you kind of, one way you go in the first conversation, but then how you're thinking about how each one of those interactions with the business.
Exactly. And we've worked on this, and the way we're kind of set up, Sid's team does strategic sourcing, so they're very much internal stakeholder focused. We've very much tried to create a procurement brand within VSP.
Yeah.
The same message, same look and feel of any material that comes out. It's, I'll say, a shotgun approach when we do meetings. We probably over-invite people, right? And then we give them the ability to tailor it back, because we want the team to have those experiences where they're understanding what that message should sound like, that should they go off on their own. They're understanding the questions that we ask when we're trying to probe our business partners for how can we help. And that strengthens the brand because it gets the team level set, right?
I love it. I love the idea, because I preach this so often about the importance of brand. Again, we don't really think about that a lot of times. But standing for something, and being consistent. So when you're going in front of people, even if it's just the look and the feel of it, it feels like everything is coordinated. What kind of things are you branding? Is it checklist, presentations, the website? How far do you go in terms of what you're doing, what you're able to do with procurement's brand?
All of the things that you mentioned, right? We have a standard deck that we do use for our, road shows with business partners. We tailor it with the, kind of like the needs of different business partners, like for somebody in marketing versus technology, things like that. We do have a website presence. We do both have an, kind of like an internal site as well as an external facing site where people can kind of, look at, procurement resources.
Right.
We have Scout, implemented Scout for our intake form. So we basically, that's the portal for, everybody tries to ask for, any questions around purchasing, right? Anything that they want to buy, they can, reach purchasing through that. And that's been very effective in terms of also providing some visibility around, pipeline and projects that are up and coming. Other than that, we do a lot of, engagements with different stakeholders. For example, there is a whole compliance department. One of us from the team actually, sits on the compliance committee. There is a privacy department. One of us again sits on the privacy committee. So that way we are able to kind of, get entrenched into some of the common stakeholders that any business partner has to deal with when it comes to, their specific project, whatever it is. We also have a couple of year-round events. We do what is called a annual supplier fair, and that's been very, very helpful in terms of engaging with our key suppliers and getting them in front of our employee population. Right. So getting these, suppliers are used to dealing with mostly procurement folks and probably some high-level decision makers in the business area. This gives them a chance to interact with employees and offer products and services, discounts, things like that, more employee facing. And the employees also get a chance to understand, hey, these are some of our key suppliers.
What do they do? What are they about? What it's like to work with them?
So we do that. We put on a pretty good show every year in the fall time, and we also try to practice with some of the other groups, project managers, things like that, around evangelizing the procurement message.
Now, would you say that so a lot of the campaign, the branding, everything is internally focused? It's about helping your team members be more responsible in the way they spend money. Has there been a kind of, I know you said about you have supplier days and you have interactions between suppliers, but has it changed the way that you work with suppliers? Have they seen an impact on what it's like to work with VSP because of the things that you've initiated from an internal perspective?
So I would say yes, but my yes is really based off of two things. By creating that kind of consistent look and feel of the procurement team, I think our suppliers overall are getting, let's say, better customer service than they probably did in the past. Certainly more consistent customer service. VSP Global as a whole is interesting. So we've done a great job of centralizing procurement. Our supplier management isn't quite as centralized, right? And we're working on that right now. But that leaves, the business partner could interact directly with the supplier and have a certain type of interaction, and procurement could have a totally different interaction. So what we're attempting to do is really just standardize that as well, and realizing that every relationship's different and has its different pros and cons, but to get the kind of consistent look and feel across the board to help our business partners understand there's better ways to interact with suppliers.
So part of the whole process was to bring more consistency, as you said, to the way that you operate with suppliers, the way that you operate internally. Does that require, a kind of embedding different skills and capabilities within your procurement group, so your procurement team has that capability to operate in that same way? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to bring in new people. It just means that maybe there's a way of helping them be consistent, spread the word in the right way. Was there work that went in behind the scenes to make sure that everyone on the team was consistent in that approach?
Yeah, definitely. I would say in terms of just communications, messaging internally within the team, I mean, we often, we have, team meetings within the procurement team as well as division meetings where we try to align on what, how we should be operating and executing. We have a real good focus around continuous learning. Yeah. Every member of our team is actually certified in SIG's, Certified Sourcing Professional program. Yeah. That helps everybody get on a, common foundation, right, around understanding, how sourcing, procurement, all of this, kind of works.
The language and
the language, yes, because even if you have come from different companies, different backgrounds, you've all used different, procurement jargon. Yeah. And so this helps kind of, even out the understanding. And we've, done several other trainings as well across the team that make sure that, you're continuously kind of like uplifting the skills. Yeah. Part of also enhancing our brand, right? So brand is not just about, a kind of like a state of time. It's continuously evolving. Yeah. And so we need to, keep up, right, with the market and stuff. So we do have people who get, really trained on specific categories. And so I think all of that kind of, helps with the, consistency, with the messaging that the team is forcing themselves to think, it's like, it's a one voice, one team, one brand. You all have a similar, everyone understands the purpose. Yes. Like why they're there, the importance of their job, what they're doing, and kind of get behind that. Yeah. Yep. And one of the key things that we do is our goals, performance, indicators, we call them as key job accomplishments. Okay. We, as a leadership team, we try to see how we can make those, individual goals within corporate travel, right, relatable to like the, CFO's goals, right? Because we report into the, finance organization, and so having that kind of relatability helps people understand. Okay, there's a method and a meaning to what I'm doing or why I am doing stuff. And also helps them understand that, hey, what they're doing also ties in and has a lot of value and visibility to the company's goals, right? Would you agree, Nathan?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the ability to tie the organization's goals down to the individual contributor, it just drives so much satisfaction and understanding of our team. And we've actually seen, we've got a solid team, but we've seen that in the changes that we've done, it wasn't for everyone, right?
And that's okay.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? It's better for them. Yeah. They're able to do something that they love now, right? And it's better for the remaining team. So I think it's an exciting time.
It is, yeah. It's taken its time. I mean, people usually say, change doesn't happen, overnight. In our case, I don't think it even happened over a year. It took several years, slow baby steps. But what has happened is we now have kind of gains that are more sustainable in the long run, and that would that's basically positioned us for a great future, right? So
no, it is an interesting point, because a lot of times when we're doing change journeys, especially when we're explaining what the change journey looks like outside of procurement, there's an expectation that it will be far easier and much quicker than it is in reality. So, even a program that's as successful as SILIY has been and continues to be as it has evolved into Fiscally Fit, like you say, you have to look at this over a timeline of years, not, well, in month 1 to 3 we're going to do this, and then in month 3 to 6 we're going to do that, and month 6 to 9 that, and then by the end of the first year everything's going to be great, and we've transformed. So it's such an important point that sometimes we try and do too much. We try and bite off more than we can chew, just of a desire to make an impact as quickly as possible. So how has this resonated? You talked about Fiscally Fit and how it was really adopted at a corporate level. How much support have you got from an executive level in SILIY going into Fiscally Fit, and how has that made a difference in the impact that you're able to create?
Yeah, interesting. I think, so SILIY was very much focused on spend.
Yeah.
Right. The Fiscal Fitness Initiative, launched by Kate Renwick-Espinosa, the president of our insurance line of business, is very much a culture shift for the company. So there is a spend aspect to it. So I think SILIY really influenced that piece, being smarter about how you spend.
Yeah.
But it's what Kate's been able to do is morph it into, it's not just about spending, it's about using your time wisely. It's about being efficient with the activities that you're doing. It's about being smart at home, right? So there's a big push also in VSP around just the personal knowledge of your home budget, right? And are you investing wisely? Are you saving for retirement? There's this real blanket feel to fiscal fitness, which is good, right? And it's from a procurement division, to have SILIY kind of be a part of that.
Yeah, the impact that you're having over and above the initial intent, it's kind of taken a life of its own almost.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And I think it's one of those things, the team understands it and gets it, and that's, they come to work knowing that, hey, we've in part had some influence over this organization-wide culture shift, which is great.
Which is what most procurement professionals
die for.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't get that opportunity.
Oh yeah. What's amazing is when you actually see how inclusive this program kind of turned out to be is you on our internal collaboration page, you almost on an everyday basis you see success stories, right, from every employee. They might have had something really cool happen at home, at work, and they all share it, tag it with Fiscal Fit. Yeah. And, that's pretty cool, right? Just to see
the engagement,
right, from everybody. And everybody's thinking, yes, this is how I should manage my finances, both at home and at work. Yeah. Right?
Now, I know that it's coming up on time to wrap up because we have other panels to be on, and such as the joys of being at a conference. I had one last question. We talked a lot about the past, we talked about the present in terms of how it's morphed into Fiscally Fit. What does the next 3 years look like? How are you going to continue this evolution?
Yeah, good question. Everything in the past opened up a lot of doors for us in the future. So jump in at any time. There's, I think, 3 big kind of initiatives for the future. One is really to develop a supplier management program that we can standardize across the company, and add value in a way that we haven't added before. 2, we're starting to get more involved in some of the supply chain initiatives. So as we think forward, we need to start applying some different skill sets to how we're going to do work going forward. But as a team, one of the big things that we want to do, procurement's beated the trusted advisor horse to death, right? Or beat the trusted advisor horse to death. And so our goal, we still want to be that advisor. We still want to garner the trust of the business. But going forward, our goal is to be a strategic partner, meaning we're not knocking on their door. right? They're actively seeking us for
Right.
advice on what needs to
Yeah.
get done, whether it's with a purchase or not.
Yeah, it goes beyond the traditional thinking of what procurement is.
Yep.
Kind of rethinking the art of the possible for
Exactly.
the roles that you can play, but commercially, as opposed to just with a procurement model.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And yeah, you just want people to share information more freely. Get to that level where people are comfortable sharing budgets.
Yeah.
People are comfortable sharing what their roadmap is, knowing that procurement is having their back in helping them execute to those roadmaps or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where our future is going to be focused on. Is again, we've done tremendous progress over the last 5 years, but it's all about moving the needle
Yeah.
and seeing how we can keep taking some more of those baby steps and inching towards more mature procurement organization.
Well, I love I love the journey that you're going on. I love the way that you've approached it. I think I speak to so many people and encourage them to do the same things that you're doing because I think it's best practice. I'm really excited to kind of keep checking in on the journey to see how you're going, how you're evolving, and taking it to the next step.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm sure we'll be inviting you both on the pod again, hopefully sooner than later.
Sure.
Looking forward
thank
to
you.
it.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Phil.
Bye.
Hi there, I want to thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. You can check out all of our back catalogue at artofprocurement.com/podcast, where you can also subscribe to our newsletter to make sure that you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's show, I'd love if you would tell a peer, or perhaps go and rate and review by going to artofprocurement.com/review. Word of mouth really is the best way to help the podcast grow, and if you're able to do either one of those things, I would truly appreciate it.